person you read about but seldom see, the weatherman. He brings you warnings of storms that sweep in from the high seas. He predicts blinding blizzards that paralyze cities and torrential rains that flood the countryside. Aided by intricate apparatus, the weatherman scientifically computes his forecasts. At times, he becomes a very vital factor in the welfare of his community. For instance, in the great California citrus belt, the U.S. weather expert is the guardian of fruit orchards large and small. In the lives of many California families, like the Morgans here, that forecaster is the #1 man. And now here's a teletype flash from faraway Alaska that will affect the local citrus country. Reduced to simple language, the message announces a big mass of intensely cold air over that part of the world. Based on further messages from Alaska, this cold area is indicated on the map. The mass of freezing air now begins to move south. That means a crop-destroying cold spell may be expected in California in 48 hours. A radio warning is quickly broadcast to all growers in the vast citrus country. Protecting precious fruit trees against cold weather is now the job of every grower. In the battle against crop destruction by frost, the ammunition is diesel oil, and the big guns are orchard heaters. To Morgan, it means a fight to survive, for his little orange grove is the result of years of hard work and sacrifice. Thermometers placed around the grove and in the fruit itself will play an important part in the conflict with nature. Mrs. Morgan takes down her curtains, and later you'll see why. And now, according to messages received by our weatherman, the cold area is moving toward California at about 500 miles a day. Local conditions are found conducive to a cold wave. They include no wind and a clear sky with no clouds. He finds very little moisture in the air, and that's more bad news. For the drier the air, the greater the severity of the frost. And so, a final warning. All growers are instructed to light their orchard heaters when thermometers drop to 28 degrees. Morgan and his family are ready for action. 34, that's 6 degrees above the firing point, but the temperature is dropping steadily. With the passing hours, the cold area now moves in. Cold that destroys fruit and trees alike has reached the citrus belt. In Morgan's community, a neighbor sounds the alarm. And so, shortly before dawn, Morgan grimly starts his battle against the elements. With every penny he has in the world invested in his little orchard, the farmer knows that unless he beats back the frost, he faces ruin. 1 heater to every 2 trees, 50 to the acre. At the larger orchards, crews of hired men are doing the heating. But here, the Morgan family and Uncle Jim must do the job themselves. Firing and tending these burners may mean long, anxious hours of hard, grimy toil ahead. And like Mrs. Morgan, the wives of hundreds of smaller growers work through the night. As hours pass, the weatherman sees no early relief, and at daybreak, the smoke from the heaters fogs the entire countryside. Later in the day, the news is broadcast that the cold will continue. In fact, all indications point to a more severe frost. Tired, Morgan had hoped for a let-up, but the latest forecast demands even greater effort and calls for more heaters per acre to combat the falling temperature. Every spare burner is now put to work, and orders for more oil must be placed immediately. As predicted, the temperature has dropped. Through the night, weary hours drag by, and still no relief in sight. With the break of another day, the temperature continues to fall, and with no more heaters available, holes are dug and filled with oil. More and more heat must be created. In a few more hours, a scarcity of fuel develops. A quarter of a tankful is all Morgan can get. The great sudden demand for oil has drained the local supply. The oil truck is empty. More fuel may come through before Morgan's meager supply is gone. If not, he's licked. Another day passes with no sign of relief. And with nightfall, the thick smoke fogs the roads. jams traffic and slows down to a crawl, the trucks bringing the much-needed fuel from distant points. Far out in the country, Morgan's fuel supply gone. With no more fuel available and no indications of an early let-up in the frost, Morgan's hopes fade. Nature, which has been most kind to this orchard, is now to crush it with a ruthless hand. Still tensely alert after many trying hours, the general in this battle against a relentless enemy awaits word from a nearby airport where other scientists are at work. Here, a tiny radio transmitter attached to a balloon will send out impulses via short wave, which will be picked up by this receiving set. As it ascends, this small sending set automatically broadcasts air pressure, humidity, and temperature. And so the magic of another scientific medium is put into operation to assist the weatherman. From different levels, the tiny broadcasting station transmits to the receiving set valuable information to be transcribed by the weather expert. As the balloon sails high up in the late night air, sleepless government workers wait for encouraging news. Dispirited, his senses dulled through ceaseless work, Morgan waits for he knows not what. Reaching the stratosphere, the reduced air pressure on the balloon causes it to expand and burst. The radio set attached to a parachute descends safely, the finder to receive a reward. Meantime, at the receiving set, a transcription of the latest striations tells the long-awaited news. Changes in the upper air indicate that clouds are coming, and that means, in a few hours, the end of the freeze is in sight. The oil is gone, but if they can somehow keep that orchard heated a couple of hours more, the trees may be saved. As time passes, temperature starts to rise, and when the wood supply runs low, anything that throws off heat is tossed on the fires. Every available piece of fuel must be used. Fences can be rebuilt later, but trees must be heated now. The fires must be kept alive. And so, finally, the end of the frost. The battle is over, and what's more, no further frost is expected. So spread the news. They come through. Their precious trees are safe. Slowly, the happy truth dawns upon them. Once again, they may face the future with hope. And just as this weatherman aided Morgan, so do his colleagues everywhere serve many fields of endeavor. Tirelessly and unselfishly, they contribute to the welfare, safety, and happiness of mankind.